this live, we're going to talk about why talk therapy, even years or even decades of talk therapy, couldn't help you overcome anxiety. And remember, my perspective as a hypnotherapist, my specialty is helping people overcome problems they've had for a lifetime in a matter of hours. So, shall we? And anxiety, actually, one of the biggest complaints that I hear from so many people, by the time they come to me, they have already been to all kinds of therapy, not just talk therapy, but all kinds of interventions. And they have tried all kinds of substances and they've read the books and they have been diagnosed or labeled. And really, as I say, they have jumped through all kinds of hoops only to find out that the anxiety is still there, and so much of what they have been given was something like coping skills or that's my gunny bear over here. He is not allowed to leave the room because, anyhow, long story, but he's attached to my husband and um, he's doing some whatever. So, where were we? At best, people typically walk away, they say, yeah, I got the coping skills, and they told me to do breathing techniques, and I should do positive affirmations, and I got to fix my mindset, and I should just think positively or just calm down, when that doesn't work when it comes to having chronic anxiety. And the biggest complaint I hear is, Susan, I have been in therapy for years. I've spent so much money, time, energy, attention, only to find out that, coping skills don't work, breathing techniques, and they don't. They only work temporarily, of course, yes, as a distraction. So I want to explain to you explicitly and exactly what's going on so that, number one, you can understand this is not your fault. This is not a personality, this anxiety that maybe you've been experiencing your whole life, just FYI, just in case. No, this is not your fault. And this is not just how you are. Let me repeat. No, this is not just how you are. This is not a personality flaw. This has nothing to do with character, weakness, or strength. This has to do with programming. So here's what I mean by that. When all these other traditional, typical tactics, tools, techniques, therapies, okay, traditionally, yes, they will speak to your mind. They work with your mind, which is great. That's a good start. That's the logic of you. But it's very, very incomplete. When hypnotherapy, listen up, this is very important. Hypnotherapy works with the part that controls your mind. And if you never work with the subconscious, the problem is just going to rinse, repeat itself every single day. And especially when the stakes are high, especially when you're most stressed, especially when life isn't going your way, boom, there comes the anxiety again. When that's when you need it the least. So programming, in my world, we can even replace the word programming with habit. Okay? This anxiety is being controlled by your subconscious, and it runs on autopilot. And this is why, yeah, Gani, it's really tragic and it's really sad because so many people suffer with that. And unbeknownst to them, right, they're doing all this breathing stuff and calming down, and I got to do positive affirmations, and I just got to, no, okay, that actually makes someone feel weak and inferior and bad, because so many people tell me, I work so hard to calm down, I work so hard to get my inner peace. You don't need more willpower. This shouldn't require hard work. You can't fix what you don't understand, okay? And if nobody explains to you what's really going on with you, by the way, whether we're talking about anxiety or ADD or ADHD, all these fancy labels that people are given, and of course, there's a nice big industry out there that very conveniently, if therapy hasn't worked, well, we can give you a what for that, right? And the truth is, that will cause you to feel numb or sort of completely disassociated, when that's not a human life. That's not a good human life, right? You're supposed to be living in this life and feeling your emotions and be able to participate, right? So, and this is what nobody tells you. You can talk about your problems until the cows come home. You can go back into your childhood, to the moon and back, and repeat that. That is not going to fix the anxiety. When anxiety is controlled by your subconscious, it is running on autopilot. And until you work with the subconscious to okay, somebody's raining on our parade. Now he's barking at the squirrels. Okay, I don't know which is better, crying or barking. You tell me. Um, so many people think that this is just how I am, and the truth is, no. This is being controlled by your subconscious, and hypnotherapy happens to work with your subconscious so that you can understand that this is actually learned behavior. And chances are you learned this from an early age. And now, of course, it had become a habit, so to speak, right? So that anytime there's a perceived threat, where your nervous system perceives like a danger or threat, this may be something you see or not, it doesn't even matter. But your nervous system automatically gets into anxiety mode. And that does not help you because it exhausts you. Now, when you're in anxiety, you can't even think straight. You can't focus. You can't be calm. You can't make good decisions when you're in a state like that. I teach my clients high emotion equals low logic. What does that mean? When a human being is in a highly emotionally aroused state, it is impossible to think straight, to think clearly. Okay, and this is why it's so important that you teach yourself, which again, I teach my clients how to bring the emotion down so that you can bring the logic up, so that you can begin to take responsibility for your life and think clearly and make decisions appropriately. That's how you can, be the master in your life instead of letting anxiety run the show. And very often, and I explain that this is often childhood programming running your adult life. But nobody explains that to you because it's so much easier to medicate people. It's so much easier to keep people dependent on therapy. So much easier to just tell them, yeah, I'll see you next week, and nothing ever changes. When here, even after just one session, you begin to experience a positive and powerful shift. Why? Because we get to the root cause of this anxiety. Instead of dancing around on the surface up here, giving you some well meaning pep talk, which is the last thing you need. You don't need another pep talk. You don't need a motivational speaker. You don't need somebody to give you another strategy on how you should live your life. What you need is restoring the nervous system so that regardless what stress you have in your life, regardless what danger, threat, regardless how bad things are, you can take control and command of your life. And the only way you can do that is if you are giving yourself the opportunity to restore, rebalance, reprogram your subconscious. Because remember, our brain, our mind is designed to be programmed. Like that's as a human being, that's how we're designed from birth, right? We're born clear slate, whatever you want to call it, pure, clean, clear, like zero. Obviously, we're born already with incredible potential and we have certain talents and traits that we have naturally. But as far as habits, personality, actions, beliefs, all of that gets programmed in. So, yeah, you didn't do your programming. That's inconvenience number one. And if you happen to have grown up in a, let's just say, good or happy household, okay, maybe things went a little bit better for you, but even then, so often even in those households, there are all these unspoken rules. So you still have to perform, obey, conform to those conditions. And from an early age, you learn how you should be and how you shouldn't be. And this goes quite deep into that rabbit hole. But then as an adult, right, when all of a sudden life is on your terms, conditions, standards, definitions of success, now you got to make the decisions. You no longer need to ask permission, but that's very disorienting. That's very distorting because your whole like first 20 years of your life, you were groomed and programmed to obey, conform, perform, and seek permission. And so this is why so many adults actually have a really hard time with self-esteem, self-confidence, self-worth, and giving themselves permission to go after whatever they want to pursue, because deep down there's still that deeply rooted belief that, oh, I need to please these people, I need to please my parents, I need to live. Because the first 20 years of your life, you didn't even live life for you. You lived for the conditions and the circumstances and the environment that you were in. So no wonder so many adults remain a people pleaser, remain, what one of my clients told me, like literally after she had a couple of sessions, she goes, oh my God, like we were all programmed to be factory workers. I'm like, you're kind of onto something, right? Because if you groom a society to just obey, perform, and conform, what do you think that will cause? And this is why so many people as adults have a hard time. So often I hear this, I don't even know who I am anymore. Yeah, you're right. How could you possibly? You never had the opportunity to even ask, who are you? What are you? What is it that you want? Because when you're child archetype, you are literally the victim of your circumstances, for good or for bad or however. And that is what creates so many problems in our adult life, because as an adult, your job is to be adult archetype, right? You got to take responsibility for your life. You got to make decisions and that is so often really, really hard for people to do because they haven't had any training in it. And as humans, yes, our brain is designed to be programmed, and then the repetition of it, right, years and years of this will just enforce it, embed it deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's why so many people oh Gunnar, you're very sad. Yes, I hear you. um this is why so many adults, there's an epidemic of anxiety. This is why. So let me know what questions you have about this, or if this sounds familiar. Again, the biggest complaint by the time people come to me, they'll say, I have already been to therapy, I've worked with coaches, I've read the books, I have listened to the motivational videos, I've done so much self-help work, but nothing seems to be sticking. Because if all you do is talk to the mind, to the logic, the conscious mind, that's very incomplete. That's only 5% of you. You must get into the subconscious. You got to get to the root cause of this problem, instead of just talking about the childhood and talking about the trauma all the time, which I don't recommend at all. Because literally, that's like you are inviting your nervous system to reassociate back into that. And that's not healthy for you. It's not good for you, and it's not going to help you change. So we got to get into the subconscious. We got to find the root cause. And then we got to give you a program that you actually want to have. You want to be more self-confident. You want to be calm under pressure. You want to perform more powerfully. You want to be able to be in control of your emotions. Then that's how we do that. And the best part is we can do this naturally. It works relatively quickly, rapidly. And the really best part, in my opinion, is you have the resources inside of yourself to fix this. I am just the guide. I tell you exactly where to go, what to focus on, what to pay attention to. You are the one who makes all the changes. And therefore, it's an incredibly empowering, very, very empowering practice and experience, because you get to see that your confidence has always been there. It's laying dormant underneath all of that stress. But once you remove that, guess what you get? You get to know who you really are, how powerful you really are, how amazing you are. You get to see more of your strengths, your talents, your traits. Most of those most likely are buried. And that we can't utilize anything like that, right? So anyway, I'm gonna stay on here for another moment, just in case you guys somebody's wrapping it up. But he's not allowed to go out, so we have to put up with him. If you want to connect with me, there is a link in my bio. Feel free. The call is free. It's a discovery call. And if you are sick and tired and you want to be free of anxiety and all those things that go along with it, reach out. I'm happy to chat with you. I'll see you next time. Thanks for spending time with me here.